It's time to talk Gonzaga basketball.
Get ready.
It's the Spokesman-Review Zags Insiders Podcast.
Here we go.
Here's Jim Meehan and Richard Fox.
Good Monday morning. Welcome back to the Zags Insiders Podcast. Jim Meehan, semi-retired with the Spokesman-Review. Richard Fox, television analyst on Gonzaga games, televised on SWX and KHQ. Foxy, no more guessing games, no more bracketologies. Ken Palms, KPI, Torvik, Wob, strength of schedule, quad 1, quad 4. Selection Sunday, kind of known to basketball people as Christmas Eve, finally arrived and answered all the bracket questions. Gonzaga is a 3 seed in the West, open against 14 seed Kennesaw State, champions of Conference USA, the tournament, automatic bid. That game's Thursday night at 7 in Portland. Well, we'll get to all that, the bracket, our picks, the rest of the West region. Tommy Lloyd's number 1 in the West. We've been saying that for 3 months. Give me your Selection Sunday routine, Foxy, and what was your first reaction when you saw the bracket pop up?
Nothing different on Sunday. I mean, Saturday's the day with all the Big 12 championship, ACC championship. That's fun to watch. I caught a little bit of the Big 10 championship. But no, I mean, you just get the TV on at 3. In celebration of St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, we had bangers and mash for dinner, so I kind of started lighting up the grill, and there you go.
Great, you know.
I was maybe like just a touch surprised. I thought maybe they'd be at the 4 line, but just with the loss at St. Mary's. But the reality is it's a tremendous season, 30-3. I think, and I know I sometimes lose sight of that. To get to 30 wins is so difficult in today's day and age, and for them to just make it look easy is remarkable. And with how they generally held things together down the stretch without Huff, dropping the one at Portland's obviously hard to explain, but losing on the road to St. Mary's, that's going to happen. A pretty good finish to the year for GU, so more than deserving, I suppose, of a 3 seed for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised either way. They were 3 or a 4.
Yeah.
If they're in Portland, I think they'd take that over seeding numbers any day.
100%.
That's a big deal. The Gonzaga, if they beat Kennesaw State, the other side of their bracket is BYU.
Mm-hmm.
But BYU's got to wait because they have a first 4 game, Texas, North Carolina State. Interesting. Those are 2 pretty good teams, battle-tested teams. I've watched them both. Texas didn't play good down the stretch, but they're pretty formidable, and so is North Carolina State. Whoever wins that game Tuesday night, Dayton gets to fly to Portland and line up Thursday against BYU in the earlier game.
I saw that.
I don't quite get that. I would have flipped that schedule, but I'm sure it goes down to the TV and the ratings and that. So I don't think BYU has an easy spot there. They're playing without Richie Saunders, a terrific player, kind of a heartbreaking injury. We've got all these injuries on all the big teams. JT Toppin. If JT Toppin was healthy, I think I might have picked him to go to the Final Four. He's that good.
Agreed.
And Richie Saunders really changed the dynamic with BYU. But we'll see. The poll, we'll get this, our usual business out of the way quick. The poll comes out today. The Zags were 12th last week. It might be out. If you see it, Foxy, let me know. That I think they'll move up at least 1 and might crack the top 10. Nebraska lost in front of them. I think they were 11th last week. Zags are down to 7 in the net. They actually dropped 1 on Selection Sunday. I think they worked out a trade with the net folks that, you can drop us as long as you make us a 3 seed in the West. We'll take that trade off any day of the week. Kennesaw State is 155. They're the 18 and 13 in quad one games, or I'm sorry, in division one games. They played 3 non-cons or non-D1s. Let me get it straight. And then 0 and 1 in quad one, 0 and 3 in quad two. Just not a lot of opportunities, obviously, in their conference. And they did play Alabama, common opponent, and their head coach worked for Nate Oates. So he has some of the same stylistic philosophies. They can score it. They get up and down the floor. They get to the line. They put foul pressure on you, all those things. But they lost to Alabama. They were down 26 at half. They scored over 50, I think, in the second half. Made it a game, lost by 11. The Zags beat Alabama, remember, in Vegas. 10-point game, high-scoring game, 95-85, if I remember right. So, first blush, what's your thought on Kennesaw State? What's your research tell you?
Well, let me tell you. Let me pull it up here. I'm not going to lie. It's not as I've not caught a lot of Kennesaw State games.
All right.
But you dig into them, watch a little bit on YouTube. What jumps out at you is they're a very good rebounding team. They're top 10 in the country with almost 14 offensive rebounds per game. They're good defensively, top 30, holding teams to just under 41% from the field, and they really put a lot of foul pressure on you. They get to the line on average 27 times a game for the NCAA, and they make about 19 of them. So they don't shoot a great percentage, just under 70%, but they put a lot of foul pressure on folks. And they do a really good job on the glass. And you obviously saw that in league play. They don't take a ton of threes, but they were second in their league, making just under 10 a game. That's about 3 more than Gonzaga makes per game. Dude, just again, rebounding, put a lot of foul pressure on you. They lost their best player, Simon Cottle, I believe is his name.
Simeon. Yeah,
Simeon, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Was averaging 20 points per game through the first 17 games of the season. A guy with a lot of experience coming into the year, 114 career games, over 1,500 points. And so since then, it appears that they've kind of done it by committee. I think they had 3 different league scores in their 3 games in the conference tournament. What jumps out at you is they're big. Not big like Arizona, where they've got a 7'2" and 6'11" kid playing at the same time, but they've got good size on the floor. You look at their backcourt: R.J. Johnson, a 6'4" sophomore, really good from 3 on the season, shot 43%, takes about 4 of those a game, averages about 15 points per game, and then you see inconsistency in production, but you look at the Conference USA final this past weekend. Jaden Harris has 18 points, 4 of 6 from 3. Ricard, a freshman, 6'6", again, good size. Harris at 6'4", but Rickard, just the 4 points, but 5 rebounds on the year, shoots it okay. But they're big up front. I mean, they got Amir Taylor, 6'9" freshman, Braden Lou, 6'9" sophomore, and Trey Simpson is a 6'8" freshman. Lou and Simpson are really good defensively, top 10 in their conference in block shots, and both can step out and shoot the 3 ball. So this is a team in Kennesaw State that can put 5 guys on the floor that you have to guard from 3. To your point about their game against Alabama and their style, they will look to play fast. They are looking for threes, or they're looking to get into the rim, hence that foul pressure. They're not a great 3-point shooting team, but when you rebound like that, when you can put interchangeable size on the floor that allows you to, in theory, switch things defensively. And you look at Taylor, he's just a freshman, so disadvantaged from an experience perspective, but 6'9", 250. Lou is 6'9", 235. So they have some size up front that in theory could play, with Graham a bit. So look, it's hard because you don't know these teams as well as you'd like. The staff is scrambling to get some tape on these guys. I'm sure they're reaching out to their common opponents, Alabama being one of them, or maybe being the one. just to get a feel, if they can, as to how these guys want to play. This is going to be a Kennesaw State team that is going to be completely loose. These are the games that really get you worried if you're Mark. Now, he hasn't lost in the first round since 2008, so I think they've got a pretty good idea about how to get ready for these games. So, it's I don't see it being a game that, Gonzaga just dominates from the tip. I think it might take them a minute to kind of figure out this puzzle, but I mean, I think that's as interesting as Kennesaw State is. I think it's more interesting to think about Gonzaga and where they finish the year and kind of how they might look and what they need to look like on Thursday.
I thought about doing this for a minute yesterday to write about it. When the bracket comes out, we're already overwatching it in the media room, and you come out for interviews. They bring out a bunch of players. They bring out a few, and if you look up over your right shoulder, there's a what do they call those for boosters? Seating up there.
Oh yeah.
A luxury box or whatever you want to call it. But there was 4 or 5 managers up there banging away on their computer. I know they were doing all the film work, the cuts, the video, and they tape all the conference title games. When they know they're going to probably play a 13 or a 14, 15 seed, they tape all the MEACs and all the ones you might face. So they have tape, and then with Synergy, they have all kind of tape. But they were up there just pounding away like they had an exam coming. Probably be interesting to sit up there and pick their brain while they're doing it. But well, let's get a look back at what happened. We last talked Monday before the semifinal game against Oregon State in the WCC tournament down in Vegas. There was some concern in that game, at least from our thoughts, that Oregon State had just beat San Francisco, hit a bunch of threes. All 3 guards could really score it. A bunch of bigs that they could rotate and spend fouls on EK. No lose attitude. They're playing with house money. The head coach, Wayne Tinkle, was fired, I don't know, 10, 12 days before that, and was coaching out the season, but clearly had them still playing hard. That's a pretty good win over the Dons. So there was a little bit of trepidation going into the game, and the Zags kind of took it away pretty quickly. Got out to a great start.
Yeah.
Shut down D pretty much the whole night. No answers for EK from Oregon State. He had 24, very efficient. I think he drew 7 fouls. The rest of the guys drew 8 combined. You can't emphasize that enough, what that does to an opponent, to a front line, getting free throws, which Graham is like close to 80% from the line, and just changing how they can, who they're going to play. You're getting to a second and third defender on a WCC team. Not a good matchup against Graham EK. Even the first team guys, not a good matchup. So, but they really shut down. I thought the whole key was they shut down Isaiah C., I believe it's pronounced, Des White, Josiah Lake. The night before, you saw all those guys drilling threes all over the place and just confidence building. That didn't happen. They were 6 of 25 from the 3 against the Zags. And I think those 3 guys, they're probably their top 3 shooters, made 1. If I remember, 1 for 14 or 15, something crazy. So it was game over. It was end of the Tinkle era at Oregon State. He's classy as always. He's a Paris High grad, and I'm glad he got the win over San Francisco. I thought that was pretty impressive given the circumstance, and they never went away. Zags got it up to 18 points in the second half, but I think it finished at 9. They just could not score enough against Gonzaga. Offensively, nobody other than EK in double digits. I cannot remember a game where they've had one.
It's happened before. I think at least one other time. I can't remember which game. But
was it this year? Yeah.
Yeah.
Might have been Michigan, now that you say it. But Fogel, Braden Smith, I thought was terrific. TGF, time, Grant Foster. They all were in that 8-9 range. They had a bunch of help. They didn't light it up. At 65-56, what'd you see watching it on the TV? What stood out to you in that win?
Yeah, I thought Gonzaga imposed themselves right away. For Oregon State, they missed some shots early, but they had a real difficult time getting into their stuff and getting comfortable on their offensive side of the ball. Gonzaga plus 14 in that first half. Oregon State shoots under 29% from the field, just 3 of 14 from three. Gonzaga 54% from the field, despite going 2 of 7 from the 3-point line, and they were 6 of 7 from the free throw line. Gonzaga was. So, they're converting from the line at a higher percentage than they normally do. It feels like this happened against Santa Clara as well in the second half. I mean, Vogel with 9 points, Grant Foster was 8 in the game, but 7 and 6 respectively between those guys. In the second half, just more impactful. Gonzaga's 17 points, I believe, in transition. No, 16 points in transition. Turned over Oregon State 12 times and converted that for, 19 points. So, for a team that struggles to score, like the way Gonzaga does, I mean, this is all relative, but they struggle to score comparatively to how they scored when Huff was in the mix. Getting those opportunities off turnovers and in transition is so important for this group. And I thought they did a really good job of converting turnovers either into transition, layup opportunities, or, good shots from the perimeter. And that's a good time to look to shoot those threes is off turnovers. You're running down, blowing the ball up the floor. You don't have something at the rim, but if you can get Miller or whoever it might be, Vogel, Mario, to spot up in transition, the defense is still trying to get back, scrambling. Now you're getting a catch and shoot opportunity, which I think it's harder for them to get right now in the half court. So those are good times for them to pull it. But another game where Gonzaga just 3 of 14 from three, Jim. They converted from the line, 12 of 13 on the game. Took care of the ball, just 10 turnovers for GU. That's something that they've been good at all year. Has Gonzaga, I mean, they're number 4 in the country in assist to turnover ratio. They don't shoot themselves in the foot very often. And that's a huge part about advancing up, starting on Thursday is don't beat yourself. So, I mean, I think the outcome we expected, Oregon State, to your point earlier, continued to play. They were up 5, they were plus 5 in the second half. So it ends up, just being a 9-point game. And, so it looks a little bit better than it felt watching it.
It was, business-like almost. What it felt like watching it for Gonzaga. 65 points in a win. That doesn't happen very often. They hadn't been under 70 even after Huff, maybe 3 or 4 times all year. So let's move on to Santa Clara. The Broncos knocked off the rival for them and Gonzaga. They knocked off St. Mary's, kept St. Mary's out of the title game. So the GU SMC title game that nearly everybody thought was going to happen did not happen. Santa Clara broke through. That game, watched it after writing up my Gonzaga stories. That was a terrific. That second half. I know I missed the first half. I know it was ugly. I know it was a grinder. That second half that I got to see, like the last 15 minutes, was fabulous. That was back and forth. That was big time shot making. Both teams. That was high level. And immediately when you're watching it, you're thinking, man, whoever gets through is going to give Gonzaga fits. And either one of them would have, and certainly Santa Clara did. The Broncos did everything allowed under the rules of basketball to make Graham Ike uncomfortable. I mean, first 2 times he really got the ball in the flow of the offense, he turned it over, immediate double teams. And then at that point, you're thinking, okay, this is going to be one of those games. It ain't going to be Graham for 30. They're just not going to let it happen. They made him feel like he was in a phone booth or sitting in the middle seat on an airplane. There was no room. Doubled, I remember one catch in the paint, four guys, literally two of them I think were touching him, and two more could have reached out and grabbed him. So doing that, they were willing to give up the three. That's a long way to recover sometimes. If you're putting so much attention on Graham. And it worked for a half. Santa Clara kind of dominated the first half. I thought Gonzaga was very fortunate to only be down. I think they were down 4 at half. Missed a ton of free throws and got obliterated on the glass, offensive glass. Santa Clara just cleaned up. But to be within 4, I thought was pretty fortunate. All those things didn't quite work the same way in the second half. There was some adjustments I think Gonzaga made. Ike found some more space, and Mario started hitting 3 balls. And Grant Foster and Vogel were dynamic in that second half. I think they had 2 scores over 20, Mario and TGF, and then Vogel.
Correct.
Vogel had a line. What was he? Is that the game he was 13, 8, and 6?
Yeah.
6. I mean, that's as good all-around game as he's played all year. They shoot over 50%. They make 10 threes. They score 79 points. 2 months ago, that'd have been 98 points. But it's just how they are now. That's a good offensive night in a lot of ways against a really good team that made the tournament. They're a 10 seed in the tournament, Santa Clara. So first half, second half. What'd you see, Foxy?
This is the 7th time this year Gonzaga gets in the double digits from 3. 10 of 25 on the game. They were 4 of 11 in the first half, and then 6 of 14. And I mean, first off, I want to speak on that Santa Clara St. Mary's game. I watched that whole thing. I mean, just an awesome college basketball game.
Terrific.
I think those are 2 teams that can easily win a game, if not get to the second weekend.
That is one of the best, at least halves. That's all I saw. That's one of the best halves I've seen in Vegas. I mean, reminded me of the BYU Gonzaga game. That was 88-84 or something in overtime. Just a game of, can you top this? One guy's hitting the 25-footer, another guy's hitting the fadeaway from.
Well, and I can't remember that. I can't remember the kid out of the transfer out of Villanova. I can't say his name. The guy that
go with Sosh. Sosh is his first name.
Let's call him Sosh. I'll pretend I know him really well. Yeah, he hits that big shot late, and then I think it's not uncommon. There's a lot of emotion for Santa Clara. You win that game, I think you feel really good about the fact you're in the tournament. Certainly, you can lock it up and not have any ambiguity if you beat Gonzaga, but there just has to be a real release of emotion, and you saw it after the game. This real joy, not only beating St. Mary's for the second time of the year, but it felt as if they had locked, kind of booked their ticket.
Yeah.
So and that's hard to come back the next day, 24 hours later. But I credit them. I mean, they're up by 4 at half. I mean, they're shooting the ball well. Rather, they're not shooting the ball well. They're finding a way to keep Gonzaga at bay, and it's really the rebounding. I mean, they're +8 on the glass there in the first half. I mean, immediately you saw their focus on protecting their defensive glass. And then they got some offensive rebounds. Part of that is they shot 20 threes, and when you shoot threes and you miss, you're going to have a lot of long rebounds. And Gonzaga just seemed a little slow to get some of those. But to your point, the second half's a completely different deal. Say Santa Clara only takes 14 threes versus 20 in the first half. And when you have a guy, Mario's 6 of 12 on the game, all from 3, 4 of 9 in the second half. To your point, Ike just 4 points in the first half, got going. And then Vogel and Grant Foster, I mean, this feels like we've been going in this direction with those two. It's Ike is your foundation. You have to have Vogel and Grant Foster be productive for you. And if the scoring is there, that's enormous. But Are they rebounding? Are they defending? In Vogel's instance, he's more of a playmaker than I think we realize. And then you have the then you have the wild cards when you think about Worley, Miller, and Mario. And I know that Smith plays a bit, but it really comes down to those three. So, I mean, it was an impressive performance. I thought Santa Clara seemed a little gassed, but Gonzaga just showed, I think, their class just a bit better. And the talent, the talent, it's been inconsistent, Jim. I think you would agree with a lot of these others, but you saw the best version of three of those, Mario, Vogel, and Grant Foster in the second half, which you hope can kind of springboard into Thursday and Saturday, where they've got a good feeling about themselves and there's something to build on. It's just, that's the challenge is, you just don't know. And I was happy to see Worley play, but he just wasn't himself. I was trying to quantify that a little bit. And so, you look at his 5 games before he got hurt at Portland, he was playing over 30 minutes a game, 12 points, 5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 2 steals, all while shooting better than 63% from the field and almost 70% from the line. It's not been anywhere near that since he hurt that thigh.
Is that when Huff was still playing too?
There was an overlap there, I believe. Yeah.
Because Huff didn't play against Washington State mid-June.
And Seattle, I believe.
That's right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So there's some overlap. But you look at Miller. I think we're moving on from the WCC tournament here. We're trying to start thinking about what kind of run do they have in them. And Worley, after being back on the floor, have a little bit of a break here. How's that leg feel in a couple days?
I got an update for you.
Give it up.
Yep. I asked him on the floor while they're snipping nets so tell me what you're at. What percentage are you at? Said I was at 70 versus
Oregon State.
75 versus Santa Clara. So I saw him yesterday and I make it a point to talk to Worley and Adam Miller as much as I can. They are remind me of Stephen Gray, Pargo, Pangos. They're insightful. They understand the game at a level that I'm not familiar with, probably. But I just enjoy talking to them. They have a maturity and an outlook that's impressive. But I asked him again. He said he was at 90. He's back practicing. He feels like he's going to be in the neighborhood. He probably won't beat 100. He probably won't beat 100 if they go to the title game. I mean, it just takes time. But they made some breakthrough there. He's feeling better, and that to me changes the equation a little bit, whether Huff plays it or not.
Yeah, I don't
Him
disagree.
in the 90s is a difference maker.
Well, and those numbers, they show you. I could have gone back further in his impact. I remember calling that game at San Diego. he was magnificent.
Yeah.
But, my point is, with Miller, he's 22 minutes a game, under 7 points, but he's just 4 of 17 from 3. That's 24%.
Yeah.
Can they get something from him? Emmanuel's been playing a ton. Last 4 games, 32 minutes a game, but shooting just 2 of 10 from 3. But what he's doing, right, he's rebounding the hell out of it. 6 rebounds a game at 9 on the road at St. Mary's. And what you love about him is he defends, 4 steals, a couple steals, a couple blocks, and he's got 13 assists and 1 turnover in those 4 games. So he doesn't do anything to hurt you as far as he makes a lot of winning plays, but he also doesn't take away from what you're trying to do. It's just his offense he's just not been able to, outside of 2 or 3 games in league that were timely. Huge moments. St. Mary's at home stands out. I know there was another one that's a
Santa Clara. I want to say
Santa Clara, maybe. It's just what are you going to get from these others? Vogel's been very good since effectively Huff's been out. Last 5 games, 11 points per game, shooting better than 50% from the field, 4 of 10 from 3. And you love the other things he's doing. A lot of what Emmanuel does, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He's playing 26 minutes a game. I mean, I'll be very, very, very interested, certainly Thursday, but if they advance on Saturday, is Mark just playing six? I'll be really interested to see.
I don't think so.
And maybe you get seven on the floor, and it's just to see on the
I
back
think
end of your
Braden's
rotation. I don't know.
Smith's playing. I think they're going to, all the 6'7s that are playing are going to play. I still think you're going to play Miller, you're going to play Emmanuel, the 2 points. But what do you have Fogel's assist to turnovers like this last little stretch? Yeah, I think he had a 5-game thing going. He didn't even turn it over.
No,
he hadn't turned it over in a while.
Yeah, I don't have the counting stats. 3.4 assists to 1 turnover.
Pretty dang good for a freshman. And Mario and Smith have 2 of the better assist to turnover ratios in the country. I mean, they're both well over 2. I think one of them's well over 3. So the way they guarded in that game, their first possession defense, even when they were getting beat in the first half, was all offensive rebounds, a lot of it. And other than Hammond was just, he was on one that night. He was a handful. He gets in the lane.
He like posts up.
He's crazy. Yeah, he's very good.
He drives. He gets to 12 feet. He turns his back on the defender, and he kind of, old man YMCA ball, kind of a couple spins, and then he's got a little right hand jump hook. Really, really, like clever player.
He's cagey, man. He's good, and he hit a couple threes, which really opens things up. Graves came in firing. I think he scored 2 or 3 buckets right out of the gate, and then they shut him down.
Yeah, he had 9 points, almost a double-double in the first half, 9 points, 9 rebounds, and on the game he ends up with 11 points, so 2 points in the second half, no rebounds. He was really good in that first half, very, very good.
Great. Him and Hammond, and then I think Mahi had a little bit of action early, but they shut him down. So I thought defensively, they never really got Santa Clara under control on the glass. I think Santa Clara had 24 offensive boards, 20-second chance. There's 14 second chance at half.
Yeah, Gonzaga +2 in the second half, but on the game, -6. Offensive rebounds, 20 for Santa Clara. To your point, though, 11 of those in the first half. Second chance points, 24-12 for Santa Clara.
So 12-10 Gonzaga in the second half.
Yeah, Gonzaga +16 on the game in points in the paint, but again, 27 points in transition for Gonzaga.
27 to zip.
Yeah.
When did you ever see that?
So
they guarded very well. They did.
Well,
they
and look,
didn't secure the rebound a lot.
That's who they are, right?
Yeah,
they're a very, very good defensive team. It's that 16-17 team, to me is the best team that Mark's ever put together. But this, if it isn't the second best defensive team, it's third at worst, right?
Yeah,
they are. They hold teams to under 40% from the field and just over 30% from 3. And despite getting a number put on them against Santa Clara on the glass, they've been a good rebounding team for the most part all year. Their guards do a good job, rather their wings, particularly Grant Foster and Vogel, and Worley when he's right, do a really good job. They rebound bigger than they are, particularly Grant Foster, the way he elevates. And that, to me, is that is the bullish case for this team, because that rebounding and defense should travel with you throughout this tournament, and it's translatable to everybody. So in other words, if they played Houston, they could guard Houston, right? I mean, and they I don't know about the rebounding against some of these top 10 teams, so maybe that this point doesn't land as well as I thought it did, but. The point is they can guard anybody, and depending on matchups, if they're avoiding those enormous teams like Houston and Arizona and Florida, you're going to see them at some point if you make a run here. But they should be able to this first weekend, they should dominate the glass. That's the bullish case for them to make a run, I think, is those two categories. And then you've got a guy, Nike, who is as good an offensive player that there is, I think, in the country. Maybe not the pro prospect that a lot of these other kids are, but certainly in a one game environment, I mean, he can go off for 30 against anybody. We've seen him do it. So
good
I mean,
people too.
yeah, really good. Yeah.
I voted for him on one of my All-American teams. I put him on there. Well, let's get to Kennesaw State. We already touched on a little bit, but maybe one more thought, and then we'll move on to possible second round matchup. Without Cottle, kid averaging 20 a game, that's kind of the mark of, wow, we better pay attention here. He's averaging 20. He's like a lot of the players they have. He's a good three-ball shooter. He gets a ton of free throws. So now it's more by committee. I think you mentioned R.J. Johnson, Braden Liu. They got a kid named Franquan Sherman. And you mentioned the big kid off the bench, Amir Taylor.
Yeah, freshman.
I think he's off the bench. Maybe he's starting now.
I think he started. I'll look at that. I can't remember exactly, but yeah.
I got another guard, 6'4", Harris, had 18 in the title game. Another 6'8" or 9" kid named Trey Simpson. So they have some depth. They start a bunch of different guys throughout the year. They play a bunch of different guys, and I think you're going to see a miniature version of Alabama. That's kind of what Alabama did. They shoot a bunch of threes. They got multiple guys who can do it. They got bigs who will do it, and they're going to try to get up and down. But they're a pretty solid defensive team. I think that's what's different. It's Alabama and Gonzaga was 95-85. I don't see that being the case here. I don't think this is the greatest draw for Gonzaga. I kind of compare it to McNeese State.
I was going to say
they're athletic. They're tough-minded.
What was the year they played Southern or somebody? Like that was a Linux year.
That was way back.
Yeah, but that was one of those things too. A team that you're like, okay, we were 16 seed, I think.
Yeah.
And
64-58, I think.
And you're like, what? You're like, how? What? These guys, I mean, they're long, athletic, play fast. I mean,
exactly.
So yeah, I think people get too caught up in the number before the name. I wouldn't do that with this group.
No,
no. You talked about Sherman. I mean, he's 6'7", 220, only 16 minutes against Louisiana Tech, but the previous two games, 37 and 29 minutes.
All these guys have stepped their numbers up when they lost the one.
Yeah,
all kind of edged up. It's like Gonzaga's had to do without help.
Right. Other than Johnson, you don't necessarily know where their points are coming from.
Exactly.
There's an inconsistency to where the points come from, and that makes it hard to scout because I mean, Sherman had 6 points in the championship game, had 17 and 19 the previous two games.
Yeah.
Right. So that Gonzaga, quite frankly, is a little bit like that too. You don't know how Mario's going to play. Yeah. You've got the one guy, and then you have to scout everybody else. You're scouting them based on, what they can do. But if you get in the game and you realize, well, Mario is 1 of 7 from 3, you might have to change how you almost need 2 scouts. In other words, It can complicate things a little bit, and I think that complicates it for GU to some degree. But ultimately, what it all boils down to is let's do us. That should be enough. Like, we're not that worried. In other words, we're not going to spin ourselves up and get totally worked up and bogged down in how Kennesaw State plays, or Texas or NC State, BYU. We'll do our normal scout, but it's about us. Yeah. How do we want to play? How do we want to impose ourselves? And in what ways do we want to impose ourselves against who we're playing in this tournament? And I think that'll be the focus. And if you're GU in this first round game, if you guard and you rebound against a team in Kennesaw State who's very good on the glass, particularly on the offensive glass, they've got good athletes around the rim. They don't have the 7-footer, but they've got 6'8", 6'9", 6'9", 6'7". I mean, they are bouncy. Yeah. You have to find a body. If we control our defensive glass, in other words, don't give them second chance opportunities, cheap points around the basket off of misses, and we guard, we'll be fine. Like,
Yeah.
we'll get those points and those fast break points we saw in Vegas. We'll see those Thursday in Portland, right? We get a stop, a block, whatever, defensive rebound, a steal. We're off and running. And then what we want to do in the half court is, I mean, I think they're at their best when they take that 12 to 14 threes a night. That to me is an indicator that they're being patient. They're getting the ball inside. They're putting foul pressure on folks. Everybody they play is going to give them the three. They can't take that bait. So it's just, I mean, as Kennesaw State's a good team, you know, but they're just, again, they're inconsistent. If you look at their schedule this year, they'd win 4 or 5, then lose 3 or 4, win 3 or 4, then lose 5 or 4 or 5. Right? There was no inconsistency to them throughout the year, so it's hard to know who you're getting Thursday.
Yeah, their net is right around the range of Oregon State, Washington State, somewhere in there. So by comparison, I think, and you mentioned they might even trim the rotation tighter. I think they're going to have to play the bench because of the way Kennesaw State wants to play.
That's a good point.
Frankly, the way the Zags still want to get up and down. That hurt Santa Clara in the final. And the other part of that is, I think the Owls, I had to look it up. I usually know every nickname. I had to look it up. Owls apply dribble pressure. They're going to get fouled at times going to the rim. And even on the break, if they're out there, they're going to put some pressure on Gonzaga. So I think that in itself will make Gonzaga have to play the bench a little bit as well. So, but if they can keep them off the glass, certainly I think they're in great shape. And look, it's a 3-14. There just aren't that many examples of a 3 beating a 14, or a 14 beating a 3, I should say. So have a big edge in the stands. You know, it's not a bad draw. It's just not one where you look at and go, well, this team doesn't have any size. There's no way. Or this team can't score it. They do things pretty well, both sides of the ball. So I think it'll be a little bit interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I technically don't disagree with you. There are more than 6 human beings going to play for Gonzaga on Thursday. Yes.
Do they have some aliens I'm unaware of?
But when you look at the Santa Clara game, or the Santa Clara game, Emmanuel 38 minutes, Graham 40, Mario 31, Davis Fogel 27, Grant Foster 28. That's 5. Worley is a lock. He only played 15 minutes against Santa Clara, but that's not what he's going to play on Thursday and Saturday. So that's 6. So between Miller and Braden Smith, that's your 7th in theory, right? And so they both will play, but I just think it's going to be immediately an assessment. You have it or you don't. You can help or you can't.
Yeah, if somebody's struggling, we're trying to
and we don't have time to come back to that. So when you look at the second half, that's where I would, unless the game's out of hand, I would expect it's going to be those 6 guys. You're right. I mean, so we'll see. I mean, the counter argument to that is not hard to make and not flawed. I mean, you're going to play super hard. You want guys to stay fresh, and those 12 to 15 minutes that you maybe give Smith and Miller in that game are important. But I just think you got to go with who can get you points. And Vogel can get you points. Grant Foster, when he rebounds, can get you points. Worley can get you points. And Emmanuel, and I understand it. He is their most solid player other than Ike. But I'll just be interested. I'll just be very interested, Jim. And it doesn't matter. The reality is it doesn't matter, right? It's just whether or not they win or lose is what matters ultimately.
Yeah. Quick look at the second round matchup. If it comes to pass, you got BYU. Really struggled when Saunders left, but have gotten it going a little better now. Got a kid that's as good as there is in the country, AJ Devanza, top recruit, terrific individual scorer, all levels.
He's a first-team
athletic.
All-American, man. I mean,
Oh,
it's
he might be the number one pick.
yeah,
He's that good. Just terrific. And the thing that also catches your eye, they got a very athletic big man who's a very good defender, shot blocker. That
Kata.
yeah, would probably match up with EK if it got to that. I'm not sold they're going to be there. I really I really think Texas and North Carolina State, whoever survives that, that'll be a war too. I think has a real good shot to beat BYU. So it's tough to project it. How do you see the other half of the bracket going? And are you
Yeah,
comfortable with that matchup at all, whoever it is?
I was super annoyed that BYU was playing a play-in team because I thought, oh, I could prepare myself for that game and have some. But I'm like, 3 teams, that's a lot.
Well, if it's BYU, does that worry you?
It does, only because they've got size, they're athletic, and they have the best player on the floor by a country mile. EK is as dynamic and he's a fabulous college player, very productive, and can certainly go toe to toe with Devonsa from a production perspective. But Devonsa is just that's a different level. The challenge that BYU has is Saunders is out for the year, averaging 18 a game, and now it's basically just Devonsa and Wright. Wright is a guy Gonzaga fans should be familiar with. Played, I believe, Baylor last year. Undersized but really dynamic guard, which has given Gonzaga problems before. This is a team in BYU that will go deep into their bench. They've got good size. I'm kind of with you, though. This is ultimately, I think, the combination of Emmanuel, Grant Foster, Worley, taking turns or helping each other with Devonsa. Is he going to get 25? Probably. But is he doing that, shooting 38% from the field? Then that's a win for you, right?
Yeah,
and then you've got to rebound the ball. I think BYU would probably look to let Kata go one-on-one with EK. That's the thing. If you go one-on-one with EK, I think he wins. But I think you're going to see teams that might look at that and say, well, we've got athletes and bigs that are physically able to play with them. Let's see how that looks. Yeah. So I think that's going to be an opportunity for him to get going early, regardless of who they play in the second round, because NC State and Texas also have good size, power force school size. I just don't know if you're going to see. Maybe Kennesaw State looks at the conference tournament and some of the later games in the year where you saw teams really pack it in against Scram and try to recreate that. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I just think Gonzaga has an advantage against all 3 of those teams. All 3 of those teams, particularly NC State and Texas, are flawed. Their top end is problematic, I think, for Gonzaga because they've got real length and real guards and all that good stuff. But because of the variance that they've shown all year, the one thing Gonzaga when we talk about Gonzaga's ebbs and flows this year, we're not talking about huge degrees of difference, right? We are in some ways talking about a pretty narrow range. They've been consistent all year. These teams are all over the place. And I don't think
my notes, Foxy.
I don't think any 3 of them their ceiling is better than GU's, right? But their floors are far lower, and so that variance makes it hard for me to envision that all of a sudden any of the 3, whoever gets out of the first round, is going to all of a sudden have all their stuff together and hit that ceiling. And Gonzaga is going to be, I think Kennesaw State's a tougher game for them than whoever they play in the second round. Put it that way.
Wow.
But just because of it's the first round, the pressure of that, you know nothing about no one on Gonzaga's team has watched Kennesaw State play. All of those kids have seen the other 3 teams play at least a few times, right? When you're in college, you're watching games all the time. right? You know these players. You probably played with these players at some level, somewhere, someday.
Yeah.
So oddly, you're more comfortable against those Power Four schools in New York, Kennesaw State.
Knowing what you're up against. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. So, and those last thing, I'm sorry, those three teams are going to play their way. Kennesaw State, you can watch all the film you want. They're going to throw something different out,
You know
right?
that.
You have to adjust real time. I just think those games are so much harder than that second round game against a Power Four school.
Okay. Asked Mark Few about Braden Huff yesterday when I asked him about Worley. He said that Braden is jogging, shooting a little bit, moving around some, and didn't think he was going to be playing this week. But I think if they get through this weekend, that maybe becomes more into the day-to-day than not playing. Maybe. And maybe that's still too early. I mean, he is coming back. He's got a ways to come back, but those are pretty good signs, at least, that it's not out of the question. Put it that way. We'll do a quick thought on Santa Clara and St. Mary's, their openers. Then we'll do the bet of the week. Did I win the bet of the week or not? Because we were kind of kicking
What
around.
was it?
It was the
Was it the
3-point
threes?
shooting. Yeah, and I think we did two of them. We did like 5.5 the first game and 11 overall for the two games. Which
well, yeah, you got it. No,
but,
you got it because they hit 3 against Oregon State, I think. So then they hit 10 against.
But then they went over. Against,
I should have taken the first bet you gave me.
I know that's twice you've done that. So, all right, Santa Clara, Kentucky. That's going to be interesting. If Santa Clara can get Graves and Mahi and Sosh and the whole crew going, Kentucky's going to have a hard time stopping them. But I think Santa Clara is going to have a hard time stopping Kentucky. I'll give Kentucky the nod barely. I'm thinking 5 or less. Who do you got?
Man, you are just anti-Broncos here. I think they're
I'm
going
not
to.
anti-Broncos at all.
You clearly have a prejudice. Clearly, okay.
You caught me.
I think Santa Clara wins that game. Kentucky's lost 6 of the last 10. I think Santa Clara is really good offensively. They got 7 guys who've made over 33s this year.
Yeah.
They're deep. Eight guys over 18 minutes a game. They're coming in with a ton of confidence. Kentucky has all the guys, all of the names that we have, can recognize. They've not had the season that they wanted. Santa Clara's going to come in loose. They can score. Sendek's been to the tournament before. Now, I know it's been a long time, but he had some really good teams. I think Arizona State, NC State. He's going to have that group ready to go. And with how they can score, and I think they have enough with Graves, their other bigs, they have enough inside. And their front court is miles more skilled than Kentucky's. And I think they're going to be able to pull those bigs out, open up driving lanes. I have faith, and I actually feel pretty good about this one.
You want to make that the bet of the week?
Well, let's have like 7. So, by the way, we should probably one of us should write these down so we're not guessing every podcast.
That is not our style, Fox.
That is not our
style.
style.
Never know what we bet. We always forget by the next week. We're terrible at it.
I'm going to say Santa Clara wins, gets to the second round, and then
I'm going Kentucky.
All right, fair enough.
St. Mary's, 7 seed, Texas A&M, 10 seed in Oklahoma City. Who do you got? He's ruminating. He's marinating. He's playing the game out in his head. Look at him. You can see it. Yes.
No, what I'm doing is I'm reading the two sentence preview from ESPN.com, trying to make a sort of informed decision.
What's the kind of in-depth knowledge we got to have, Foxy, right there?
I'm going to go St. Mary's too. And here's why. Let me tell you.
Let's have it.
I think St. Mary's, when I think about teams that I wouldn't want to play, there are teams that play a certain way, a distinct way that I'm not used to, and I have a short window to get prepared for them. UConn comes to mind. UConn is such a difficult out in the tournament because of what they run and how they play. I think you're going to see teams like Wisconsin and Nebraska because of how they play offensively. You know, it's one thing if they're in your league and you see them, you know, 2 or 3 times a year and you're a staff and you're a player and you've seen them, you've played them 8 times. Well, a lot of that stuff that they run, you can prepare for. But the way St. Mary's plays, the tempo, the way they control things on both ends, how they guard, they have size. If they need to go big, they can. I think that's just if you're not familiar with it, I think it's really hard to prepare for. This is an A&M team that's been inconsistent all year. I think they have 5 quad 1 wins. They score pretty well, 87 points a game, I believe. But I just think St. Mary's is a really tough out. And this is their 5th year in a row. I mean, all these guys, you know, even Dent and, you know, McKeevers, who didn't play last year a lot, they saw it up close. Lewis has been there. Morauskas has been there. I think they're going to win.
Boxing? I hear everything you're saying.
Wow, look at you, Power 4 guy. But here we go. Power 4 Jim. You're going to pick another Power 4.
I hear everything you're saying.
Okay.
But A&M is a relentless crew. They call it Bucky Bowl for his coach, the new coach down there. And they were rolling. They were leading the SEC early on, and things kind of fell apart about mid-season. But I just think, again, I think this is going to be right down to the wire. But I think A&M gets them by, 74-70, something like that. It's going to be tight.
Well, look at you. That's
but I'm saying Broncos and St. Mary's go home after 1 game. That's my
How about
thought.
this? The over-under is 148.5, which would be in line-ish with what you were saying. And the spread is, so A&M's favored by 3.5. Kentucky is favored by, I'm sorry, Santa Clara is favored by, is it minus 3.5 means you're favored? I'm sorry, Kentucky is favored by 3.5.
Yeah, it has to be.
So
both 3.5. Oh.
And St. Mary's is favored by 3.5. Gonzaga is favored by 20.5.
20.5. Wow. Well, I'm sticking with what I picked.
Right,
Let's do real quick. We'll do Gonzaga, how far they go. And if you got a Final Four and a champion, let's hear it. But at least let's do Gonzaga, and if you have the other.
Well, I prefer to pick my Final Four picks next week after I know the Sweet 16, but I'll do it now. I think Gonzaga wins this weekend. I think they get to the Sweet 16. You're expecting Purdue to be there. I watched a bit of that Purdue-Michigan game.
They look good.
They looked really good. I can't believe I'm going to do this. I think Gonzaga can beat Purdue. This is what happens. This happens every year, Jim. It's not hard, but I actively work to be as impassive and down the middle as I can be with you. When I call games, when you and I do this podcast, I try to be analytical. I have no emotion. The Selection Sunday, I see their seed and where they're going, and now like the fanboy in me comes out and the guy who played there, and it's really, really hard. Okay, so
I don't have that problem.
I know. Well, you're just probably going to pick Power 4 conferences all the way through. You're going to be all number 1 seeds.
You wait. I got some surprises for you.
We should somehow show this to people. All right, so my instinct is to say Gonzaga gets to the Elite 8 and then loses to whoever's there, Arizona more than likely. I think that's where the magic ends. So I'll have Arizona in the Final Four. I will have I'm gonna be crazy. I'm gonna pick St. John's. Can't believe they're a
That's
5 seed. They won the Big East tournament, and they're a 5 seed. Now,
playing great.
and the way with Rick Pitino, like one last run, I'm gonna pick Florida.
Florida.
And then, as much as I don't like to them, I'm going to pick Michigan. So Michigan, Arizona, St. John's, and Florida.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go Florida against Arizona.
Michigan or Arizona. Arizona. Okay.
And I'm going to pick Arizona.
And
you know what? And I don't love my Florida pick because their guards aren't great.
Yeah.
But I look at their bracket and I think I'm like, I'm really going to pick Nebraska or Illinois to make a run. Those two teams probably. And I've seen Houston play so much. I think they're better offensively, but they're not as good as they've been defensively.
They're not as good scoring it with bigs. That's my only catch with them.
Yeah,
Great
but Florida's guards are not great. I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to say Nebraska gets there.
Boom! Let me write that.
I don't even care. So, all right, Nebraska plays St. John's. Arizona plays Michigan for basically the national championship. I'm going to say Nebraska's magical season goes to the championship game, and they get crushed by Arizona.
Okay. Well, my favorite
I'm all
part
over
of
the place. I wasn't prepared for this.
You threw some curves at me. My favorite part of this whole deal, Foxy, is when I ask you something and I can just see wheels turning, visibly see them on your scalp. I enjoyed that. All right, here's what I'm going. You're going to like this.
Okay.
In the West, Gonzaga wins 2. They go to the Sweet 16, and you better watch out for Miami, Florida.
I thought about that.
I've watched them. They're good. They can beat Purdue. I don't think it matters. I think Gonzaga gets to the Elite Eight.
All right, we're in
Exactly what I said in the first show of the year. I think I'm encouraged by Warland. I think he's at 95% or higher. He helps them a ton. And if they get that far, maybe he hops back for the final weekend or the second weekend. We'll see. That's a stretch, but maybe. The matchup everybody wanted to see, Arizona, Gonzaga, for the right to go to the Final Four. I've got Arizona winning it. I think we've talked about it. I've got Arizona and Michigan with the best rosters, most complete offense, defense, all of it. Neither one of them shoot the three great, which might catch them one of these nights, but those two have the best rosters. That's who I'm going with. Michigan takes the Midwest. I could not bring myself to pick Duke, even though they're the best team in that region. It's not even close. My wild card. I don't feel confident about this. I had thought about St. John's, even thought about UConn. I'm going KU. I think KU gets it together. I think Peterson gets tired of all the noise outside and plays like a first pick overall. That's my huge upset. KU. In the South, I don't think Florida gets there. Defending champions don't get there very often, other than UConn and Florida way back.
The guards aren't great.
I really want to pick Kelvin Sampson. I just don't think they get enough. They got great big and Tugler, but they had 2 great bigs last year against Gonzaga, you remember. Illinois. That's my other wild card. But boy, you kind of got me thinking with Nebraska. I'm going Illinois. So one half of my bracket is Arizona, Michigan.
We're the same.
I'm going Michigan. The other side, I'm going Illinois. I've got an all Big Ten final, and I got Michigan winning it all.
Who do you have in the East?
KU.
Oh, that's right.
KU.
Okay.
So, I just can't go 1 seed, 1 seed, 2 seed, 1 seed. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Well, you
So,
know what though, man? Not to derail this, but that's where this is going, where you just have like top two seeds. Maybe like a 3 seed would be like a run,
yeah.
just because of where we're at with college, with the NIL or salary cap, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
I think the days of Holy Cross or whoever making a run to Elite Eight are over. So you're those first round games. I think you see those non-power 4 teams find a way to win those games, and then it just quickly goes away. I mean, looking at it, I don't know. I'm not sure you're going to have other than Gonzaga. I don't know if you're going to have a non-power 4 team in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I feel better about Gonzaga's chances. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I
did
didn't.
last
I
week.
didn't hate I thought their bracket draw, particularly this first weekend, was pretty good.
Not bad. Yeah. All right, that's going to do it. If you want to, I'll post this here in a couple hours on Twitter. If people want to chime in on our crazy picks, if they want to chime in on Gonzaga, where they go, throw it on there. We'll stand by our picks. We always do. We may not be right, but we stand by things. Foxy, hey, thanks for everybody always tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll have at least one more show. If the Zags win, we'll have at least 2 more shows. So again, thanks Christy Burns for everything she does for us, and tune in next Monday. I think it'll be interesting next Monday. Have a good week.